Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the special New Year's Eve edition of the show. Today, we're going to be talking about all things NFL, the playoffs, and, of course, the victims of Black Monday. All that and more right here on Into the Voyd.
What you want, what you want. Come on. What you want, Come on. Come on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's. If you're listening to this a little later, of course. It's the Wednesday, December 31st edition of Into the Voyd. I am your host, as always, R'Jay Voyd. Thank you for joining me once again. We got a lot to talk about today, a lot of NFL stuff in particular. It's a heavy dose of the NFL today. In fact, that's all we have to talk about, or at least all I've figured to talk about here. I wanted to talk a lot about, we're going to be talking a lot about front office personnels and head coaches, of course, and then we're going to preview each of the wild card matchups coming up this weekend. I hope you guys are all having a great holiday season. Hope your Christmas, your Christmas or your Hanukkahs or whatever you celebrate during this time of year. Hope it was all very exciting, very happy. I hope you had a lot of fun with your families or whoever you like to hang out with. I hope you got a lot of great shit as well. Pardon my language. But to kick things off here today, it was just moments after Sunday's game that the 49ers announced that the organization, and Jim Harbaugh, their head coach, were going to part ways. Literally moments after the game. It was I've never actually seen something happen that fast, or at least it being announced that fast. It's like they had it ready at the helm, and that's one thing I really like about this. And not necessarily Harbaugh leaving, because Harbaugh is a wonderful coach, and I mean that. There's a lot of issues, a lot of rumors and issues going around with him this year, which I think for the most part led to his leaving the team, the organization, of course. But as a head coach, I think he's amongst the best in the NFL. He led this team. He's been here 4 years, right? This was his fourth year. And besides this year, which they failed to make the playoffs, which, let's remember, it was kind of under the team not making the playoffs this year, although they have struggled a lot. I will say that. They have been a rather a weak team. But I think them missing the playoffs has a lot to do. Not saying they would if this didn't happen, but has a lot to do with the NFC South and how poorly all four of the teams in that division have played, basically making it to where they, all four of them, or at least the top three of them, if you can consider any of them top three, but the top four. The top three of those teams were in the playoff hunt right up until the end, and none of them have a winning record. And so I think a lot of them missing the playoffs this year, the 49ers that is, has a lot to do with that. Clearly, that being said, they missed the playoffs for the first time in Harbaugh's head coaching career in the NFL, for the first time in his 4 years. But let's not forget, he went to 3 consecutive NFC championship games and led the team to 1 Super Bowl. That is pretty good. I mean, so it's a great thing that they agreed to part ways. The way they worded it was a mutual agreement, and so it's a wonderful thing that happened, because Harbaugh's 44-22-1. That's his record as the 49ers head coach. That includes the playoffs, of course. But it's a big loss for the 49ers. I think Harbaugh would be an excellent addition to any NFL team looking to get a head coach, really. However, shortly after they announced that, I think it was actually a day later or something like that, maybe it was yesterday that was official, but a very, very short time has passed since that happened, and he's already found a new home. That's right, Jim Harbaugh is not even going to be in the NFL next year. He has agreed to become the head coach of the University of Michigan, where he replaces Brady Hoke, who was fired earlier this year in the NCAA Division One. He had been with the team since 2011. Look, I don't follow college football, all that much. I don't know too much about it. I read the headlines here and there, but looking at looking briefly when I was doing my research for the show notes here, looking briefly at where the University of Michigan has been the last couple of years, they made it to a couple of bowl games, which none of the high prestige bowls or anything like that. In the 4 years that Brady Hoke had been with the team, was it 4 years? 2011, 3 or 4 years. But in those 4 years, they've had mild success, and it did appear, if I remember correctly, that kind of like Rex Ryan, who we'll talk about here again in a short while, it kind of looked like after he got off to a good start, and then as the years continued on, Brady Hoke's team, the Michigan football team, started to decline. Not drastically, but slowly. It just seemed like the team wasn't getting anywhere. So, look, Harbaugh going there, and as far as I know, this was actually where Harbaugh went to school. I think he was a University of Michigan man. I could be wrong about that. That's just something that I'm pulling off the top of my head right now. But look, this is a great addition for their football club, no doubt. And look, from what it seems, this is kind of what he wanted. When he was with the 49ers, it's some people just think that, all right, it's a step down. They automatically think, oh, it's a step down if you were in the NFL, kind of like Nick Saban. It was a step down. He went back to the NCAA. He went back to college. Well, for some people, that's a good thing. Look, Nick Saban prefers being in football because you kind of, if you're the head coach of the college football team, you are more or less, you get to play the role of head coach, obviously, and you also get to play the role to a certain extent of the general manager. You get to pick who gets on your team. You have basically final call on who makes the team and who doesn't. And I think that's really what Jim Harbaugh was frustrated with, the lack that he was able to contribute. Like I don't think he enjoyed, from what I'm able to gather, it didn't seem like he was happy with, his freedoms, I guess you could say, about who makes the team, who's going to be on his team, and who's not. And I think that's really one of the things that mainly frustrated him and led to his portion of this, his side of this mutual parting of ways. The other side, the 49ers, I think they were just as equally frustrated that, maybe Harbaugh was giving them a hard time, or they just weren't happy with the production. I gotta think that this was, when they say mutual, and this is where I kind of have my issues with, so to speak. When it comes to the 49ers side, I have a hard time believing that they went up to Harbaugh and said, are you interested in leaving? I would almost put money on Harbaugh being the one to kind of get the ball rolling in this case. Obviously, as far as front office and general manager and executives go, the 49ers and Harbaugh always seem to have, maybe not in the early season, but definitely it became apparent this season that they were not on the same page and that they maybe had a tough relationship as far as, like, can they get along? Do they get along? That kind of stuff. But for the most part, I would almost guarantee, I would put money on it that this was Jim Harbaugh's kind of his idea. He's the one that brought it up. He's the one that got the ball rolling as far as this situation is concerned. Because it was clear that he was unhappy with his role, and to a certain extent, maybe the front office and the executives were a little unhappy or a little uneasy with their role compared to what he wanted them to be. So it just never seemed like either side was really on the same page. And I think that was apparent all throughout, his career there, his at least the last couple of years. It was just overshadowed by the success. Obviously, if you're winning games and you're going to championship games and you're making Super Bowl runs, it's easy to overlook and kind of oversee the signs of maybe content or something in between the two sides. Now that they had a lot more struggles this year, and obviously they weren't going to make the playoffs, it became a lot more apparent, and it's more at the forefront. And that's what the media kind of wanted. They wanted you to see this now. But look back, look at the evidence. This has been how it just doesn't happen overnight. This content, this kind of double-sided thing where all right, he likes it, he doesn't like it, and neither do they. They kind of just don't agree. This has been around since Harbaugh got here, or at least since this team has been together. And I mean that like the coaching staff and the front office, exactly like that team. But other than that, Black Monday then, last Monday. Now, usually I do my shows on Mondays, but I had some things to do. I had a doctor's appointment Monday night. Obviously, I had to work, so it kind of made me constrained. I was a little constrained by time as far as Monday. So I didn't get to do the show on Monday, and I was going to do it yesterday, but some other things came up yesterday. And I did have time yesterday to do it, but I looked at it and I'm like, look, I get a half day off of work on Wednesday. I'm going to create the show. I'll do my show notes on Wednesday morning after I get off, and then I'll be able to do the show on Wednesday, and I'll be able to do like a special New Year's Eve. Now, I did say special New Year's Eve edition of the show earlier. There's really nothing special about it. It's just another show. Happen to be doing it on Wednesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. But anyway, Black Monday. Now, I was going to talk about this on Monday, and I was going to talk about it on Tuesday. That's kind of where I was getting at there. Black Monday has become kind of the moniker of the first Monday after the NFL season's complete. Basically, what they're saying is it's a sale. It's fire sale. Everything must go. If you are a coach on the hot seat, or if you're a front office personnel on the hot seat, Black Monday is the day that you are not looking forward to. A couple of things happened on Monday. Going into this, Chicago Bears fired their GM and head coach. That's Phil Emery and Mark Trestman. They're both gone. Emery had been there for 3 seasons. Trestman just finished his second season. He was 13 and 19. That was his record coaching the Bears. And look, it's no secret the Bears were terrible this year. Quarterback questions. Jay Cutler's a free agent. Is he a free agent at the end of the year? I'm pretty sure he is. So Jay Cutler's a free agent, and his performance this year was not that good. So you got to believe that, oh man, Mark Trestman, I don't even know what to think about that. But the Bears were so bad this year. It was their defense. They lost for as long as I can remember, the Chicago Bears' identity was defense, and they completely lost it. It just was non-existent this year. Their defense they showed signs popping up here and there. But I think overall the Bears were a huge disappointment this year. Many people had them as a contender in their division. And they're on the same page as the Vikings at this point. Not quite there. In fact, they took a huge step down as far as I'm concerned. Disappointing year for the Chicago Bears. And it's capped, of course, bookended by the firing of their two main office guys, the GM Phil Emery and the head coach Mark Trestman. And look, no one can argue that this wasn't a bad decision. I think every Chicago Bears fan, I know, I listen to what's the show on occasion? Basically, I listen to a show on occasion. It's on Fox Radio. It's in the morning. I'm drawing a blank on it now all of a sudden. But one of the guys in the morning there, he's a huge Bears fan. I happen to know a couple Bears fans. They are fired up, and I can't imagine any of the people believing that Mark Trestman should have stayed around. I mean, it was just clear that whatever he expected from the team, whatever his idea for the team was, same with Emery, it just wasn't going to work. It was just not going to happen. It was not going to fit the mold for what they needed. So it was a great decision by the Bears to get rid of him. The Atlanta Falcons also made a splash. Maybe a little more of the disappointed side as far as fans go. Mike Smith, their head coach, was fired after 7 seasons with the team. He accumulated a 67-50 coaching record, including the playoffs, of course. And it's a little different than the Mark Trestman situation because this is a guy who has established success in the past with the Falcons. I mean, Trestman really didn't have any success with the Bears. Mike Smith is a good coach. I mean, he's a really good coach. He showed it in the past. The Falcons just a few years ago, even last year, they were a competitive team. They were contenders, so to speak. Matt Ryan is one of the best quarterbacks. Maybe not anymore. He's top 15 quarterbacks. He's in the top tier, I guess you could say. I mean, they have a decent running guy. Is it Forte that they have? I think Forte's with the Bears. But look, they got I know that they have a good running back. I just can't remember who it is right now. I'm drawing a blank on his name too. Well, I'm just not prepared today, am I? But yeah, I mean, 7 seasons, Mike Smith. That's an established coach right there. It's not Mark Trestman, the guy you're just trying to see what he has to offer. Mike Smith is a guy who, for all intents and purposes, was a good thing for the team. Then letting them go, some people I could definitely see being disappointed by it for 7 years now. But at the end of the day, you need to win. And this season, especially, look, they lost their Week 17 game. It was win and you're in. As odd as that may sound for a team that was below 500, all they had to do was win against the Carolina Panthers, and they made it to the playoffs. And not only did they lose, but they lost terribly. It was horrific to watch. The team did not show up to play, and that says a lot. Regardless of how good Mike Smith is, that needs to be answered. When you have your season on the line, your playoff hopes on the line, regardless of how you played throughout the rest of the season, when it comes down to the very last game of the year, to the wire, and that's how your team shows up to play, somebody needs to answer for that. And I think that, although it might disappoint some people have I don't know any Falcons fans, I used to, but as far as that means, I mean, that could be something that some people might be disappointed with. Maybe he has a fan base, maybe the fan base likes Mike Smith, but I think none of them can argue that a change needed to be made after how they finished, specifically how they finished out the season. They've played on and off, average to terrible football throughout the year, but that showing that they gave on Sunday against the Panthers was just absolutely pathetic. And Mike Smith somebody needs to answer for it. This year it was Mike Smith. It is nice. Now it's time to move on in a different direction and see if you can take whatever's left in this Matt Ryan tank and turn it around. You got Julio Jones and you got R'Jay Voyd. R'Jay Voyd's not going to be there much longer. Julio Jones is a phenomenal wide receiver. You got pieces here. They just have to find it and put them all together. Find a good head coach who can turn the atmosphere around there and push them in the right direction. And then, of course, the big news, in my world anyway, the big news was no surprise whatsoever. The New York Jets fired head coach Rex Ryan and their general manager John Idzik. Now, I'm very, very happy that they got rid of John Idzik. Now, people have been arguing, well, you can't fire a general manager after 2 years. If you're gonna, but Mark, what's his name? Adam Shine. I was listening to one of the NFL shows, but Adam Shine even said, look, you only fire a general manager in 2 years if they are that bad. Look, John Idzik, without question, has been that bad. It's been a terrible look. He refused to answer positional needs during the season. Like, he signed one of the biggest besides quarterback. Forgetting about the quarterback situation, which we all know is the biggest joke right now for the biggest joke in the Jets joke box right now. One of the biggest positional needs they needed was in the secondary, safeties and cornerbacks. What did he do? He didn't sign anybody. He didn't do anything to address that situation. Yes, he drafted Calvin Pryor, but look, Calvin Pryor obviously was not the guy. He was not playing the way you needed him to. D. Milner, he drafted last year, injured early on. That's fine. And he also drafted another cornerback. I don't know how good he was because we never saw him play because he didn't play a single because he was injured. He was placed on the IR. So maybe that was his plan, but that's part of also his job, general managing. If your guys you drafted or the guys you had in place at the beginning of the season get injured and you have nobody to speak of to take their place, you need to go into free agency or you need to go in the market and try and pick somebody up. He refused to do that. The only move that he really made, and I'm not going to sit here and bash him too much Even though I despised him, I thought that the way he handled this season in particular was garbage. Each of the drafts that he's been ahead of has been terrible. Name one good player that he drafted. And the only one that comes to my mind is Sheldon Richardson. And guess what? That wasn't an Idzik draft pick. That was a Rex Ryan draft pick. But terrible drafts in his tenure there in the 2 years. Basically no mid-season movement whatsoever. Didn't really address the needs that the team needed. The position needs, I should say. And really, the only splash he made was the trade for Percy Harvin. But I think that obviously just fell into his lap. Seahawks wanted to get rid of him, and they were able to get rid of him. They didn't really give anything up for him. So you can't really... Is that good job on my John Idzik's part? I don't know. He did sign Eric Decker in the offseason as well as Chris Johnson. But Chris Johnson, who is he anymore? He's nobody. It's really... It makes me happy. It really does that they let him go. Throughout the last couple of weeks, we obviously knew Rex Ryan was leaving. And I love Rex Ryan. I think he's the best thing that happened to the Jets in a long time. And but even I, as a sports fan, but if I can think about it, even I kind of understand and know that, look, you don't benefit anything from keeping Rex Ryan around. You had to let him go. I think he's a great head coach. I really do. And I think that he's going to go somewhere next year, and he's going to light things up. And I really think he's going to be a successful head coach. But at this point in time, it's just what needed to happen. The Jets needed to let him go. But so we all knew that was going to happen. But then you go to John Idzik, and it was not quite certain. There started to become hints here and there as the last few weeks of the season came along. But nothing was really set in stone to know for sure if it was going to happen. The moment I read the news report that he was let go too, I was ecstatic. I really enjoyed that. The good news there is that the Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, the good news for me has hired some consultants, I guess you could say, some very successful football guys to help him make a decision on head coaching and the GM. I've heard that they're interested in Garrett Kubiak, who's the current Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. That's fine. I think, but what I think should happen is hire a general manager first, though. I think that should be their first order of business. And then once they hire the general manager, the guy they feel is right for the job, let that general manager go out and find his own head coach. I think that's the right way to do this. But anyway, yeah, John Idzik being fired, great. Rex Ryan being fired, sucks because I like the guy and I think he's a great head coach, but needed to happen, necessary. So good move on both of their parts. Rex Ryan actually has been, it was reported today, I think, that Rex Ryan is actually supposed to interview next week for the Falcons head coaching job and the 49ers head coaching job, which neither one of those teams really stood out to me as being the forefront. I think Rex Ryan, personally, I think that he would do a great job. I think that a good fit for him would be either Oakland or the Bears. And Oakland, I just think, is the perfect platform for him. He's fine. If he went there, he would finally have himself a nice young quarterback that actually has some a lot of potential. And if he went to the Bears, look, that's what the Bears need. They need the defense. Now that Trestman's gone, they need that defensive mind, that defensive character to be brought back. And who better to bring the character back to a defense that has had defense to a team that has had a long history of being a defensive team than Rex Ryan. Right, I'm telling you right now, coordinator or head coach, he's the best defensive coach in the league right now. I have no doubt about that. No doubt in my mind. Best defensive coach in the league. That's available. I think Pete Carroll is also on that same list. But even then, I think Rex Ryan's a better defensive mind, and I think maybe not a better overall coach, but I do think that Rex Ryan's a much better defensive mind than Pete Carroll, and I think that he is the best option out there right now, especially for teams that are looking for head coaches. But recently I heard that the Bears might be interested in him. I'm like, well, yeah, that actually would be a good fit for Ryan. I didn't think about it beforehand, but yeah. So Oakland or the Bears, Oakland or Chicago. That's who I think Rex Ryan would make a good fit for. But yeah, he's supposed to interview for 49ers head coaching job and the Falcons head coaching job next week. So, excuse me. So moving on, the NFL season's finally come to an end. Pardon me. So the NFL season's finally come to an end, and the playoffs are upon us. Starting this Saturday and Sunday, our wild card matchups. We're going to go through the wild card matchups and give us kind of a preview, so to speak. The first one that we'll talk about is look, first of all, there's 4 games. Out of these 4 games, I'm going to tell you guys honestly, this might be the most boring, on paper anyway, the most boring wild card round I've seen in a while. You got the first one we'll talk about is Cardinals and Panthers. That's at 4:35 on Saturday on ESPN. It's going to be the Cardinals 11-5 against the Panthers 7-8-1. Of course, the Panthers winning that terrible, weak division and a playoff berth with a losing record. And it's the second time that's actually happened in 5 years. I think the Seattle Seahawks did it a couple years ago as well, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. No, I guess it would be 5 years ago. But yeah, it's the second time it's happened in 5 years. That could be a major storyline in the offseason after the Super Bowl. That could be a huge storyline going forward now. Are they going to make a change as far as the playoff format? Personally, I think that those two... Personally, I don't really care. But right now we're previewing the matchups here. But yeah, like I said, very, very weak matchups this week. The only interesting storyline here is obviously the fact that the Panthers have a losing record and they're hosting a team with a winning record. 11-5, obviously, are the Cardinals. The problem with this matchup now is going into it. The Cardinals have a stellar defense. We know that their defense can perform and usually does. The Panthers, clearly, 7-8-1, clearly have had their struggles throughout the year. They had to win week 17, Sunday against the Falcons. I mentioned that earlier, to get into the playoffs, and they won in good fashion. Cam Newton looked good. The whole team looked good. And furthermore, the Panthers' defense looked pretty good too. That kid Luke Kuechly is just phenomenal. I think he's kind of outshined and overlooked because of the plays of like J.J. Watt and whatnot. But dude, Luke Kuechly's up there too as far as linebackers that know how to fucking play. He's a monster. But yeah, you got the Cardinals going in there with their third string quarterback. It could be very tough for them, especially if the Panthers come in and play defense like they did against the Falcons. That could mean a lot of trouble for the Cardinals working with their quarterback that they got. I don't even know his name. I really don't know who's starting for the Cardinals. And all I know is that Carson Palmer's out, and I know that and now I'm drawing a blank on his name too, but Stanton, I think. And Drew Stanton's out too. So I know they're working on the third guy. And that's a sign of big trouble for the Cardinals. So I mean, the Panthers, look, they got themselves. They didn't as badly as they've played this season, and as disappointing as they've been this season. This could be a matchup where they can find themselves. I think they can easily find themselves winning. I'll pick the Panthers to win the game. I just really think that the quarterback that the Cardinals have, that obstacle, as well as the offensive weapons. Look, Larry Fitzgerald's the only really big name I know on that offense. So as good as the defense is, I think that the Cardinals are going to have their hands full with the Panthers in Carolina, and that's why I give this matchup to the Panthers, and they're going to move on, I think. The second matchup that we're going to talk about is a division rivalry, which could make things interesting. It's going to be the Baltimore Ravens, who are 10-6, heading to Pittsburgh to take on their division rival Steelers, who are 11-5. The Steelers actually won the division after defeating the Bengals in Week 17, and that helped them claim that home field advantage. One of the things that I've noticed this year, first off, talking about the Ravens, I think that the Ravens have really shown a lot of weaknesses this year. They've been, I don't want to say inconsistent, but specifically Joe Flacco, I will say inconsistent. He has struggled a lot this year, especially in the last few weeks. In fact, in the Week 17 win against the Browns, he struggled a lot in the first half. He did come back in the second half and took the game in his own hands and won it for him. And congratulations to him. Good for him. But he seems. I never bought into the Joe Flacco thing. I never thought that he was this wonderful quarterback. That he's definitely, in my opinion, not worth the contract that the Ravens gave him after they won the Super Bowl. I think that Super Bowl team was just in the right place at the right time, and they had a good team, and that's it. They had a great team around Joe Flacco. Not to say Joe Flacco's not good. I'm not like disrespecting him or not saying that he's not good, because he is. He's a wonderful quarterback, but I just don't think he's as good as what the league, I think, wants us to think, if that makes sense. I don't buy into him being as good as they say he is. He just struggles too much. I haven't really seen too much of that elite stuff from him. So all that being said about the Ravens, moving over to the other side in Pittsburgh, the Steelers, one of the Steelers' star players might not even play in the wild card round. Le'Veon Bell, their running back, was injured in the game against the Bengals, and no official word. He hasn't officially been said whether or not he's going to play. He hasn't officially said that he's not going to play. The team hasn't commented really on it as far as a for sure yes or no on it, but they did sign this week. They did sign Ben Tate. Ben Tate obviously was released by, I want to say, Cleveland earlier in the season. He was signed, and you got to think that, look, maybe that's a contingency plan. Maybe that's a contingency plan. Maybe they expect Bell to play, but just in case he's not ready, that's when they play. That they have Ben Tate there to take over for him. I don't know officially what the word is right now. As of today, I haven't heard too much. All I know is that Ben Tate's been signed. If Le'Veon Bell does not play, is it a big loss for him? Yes, it's a big loss for the team, sure. But I think this team is super talented. I'm not a Steelers fan. I never really have been. And I've always kind of liked the Ravens. But in this matchup, I like the Steelers better. That's two home teams that I'm going for. Those are my two home picks. But the Steelers are just a good team. The Steelers, so I like they've always played good defense, good to decent defense, I guess you could say. But that offense, Ben Roethlisberger is the real deal. He always has been. Of course, then you got that, what's the rookie wide receiver's name? Antonio Brown. Dude, he's a monster too. So yeah, Bell not being there is going to hurt them a little bit. It'll definitely take some points off the board, him not being there compared to if he is there. But I do want to give the nudge to the Steelers. That's my pick for the Ravens. It's Steelers, so be a lookout on. Make sure you see that on Saturday at 8:15 p.m. on NBC. Third matchup. Now, out of the four, this one I think is the most interesting, but not a lot, not much, because none of these three playoff matchups in the wild card really appeal to me at all. But this matchup's the Bengals at the Indianapolis Colts. That's on Sunday at 1:05 p.m. on CBS. The Bengals are 10-5-1. And the Colts are 11-5. Now, I say this is the most interesting. Maybe it's simply because I live in the Cincinnati area, and therefore that's what I have the most exposure to or easy access to. But really, the things I'm looking for in this game is I'm wondering, how are the Bengals going to perform? And specifically, how's Andy Dalton going to perform? Because, look, there's no denying, regardless of how well they beat the Broncos 2 weeks ago, there's no denying Andy Dalton has a bad reputation for choking under pressure. I can't remember what the statistic was, but it was a couple months ago when I heard them talking about Andy Dalton's record in primetime games, and it was like somewhere 15-1. I mean, so it was 15 losses, 1 win in primetime. It's just, and I never believed it. I always heard Bengal fans, because I'm around them constantly, I've always heard, oh, Andy Dalton sucks, and I never understood it. I always liked Andy Dalton. But then recently, this past season now, I've kind of started paying attention a little bit more to the team and to Andy Dalton himself, and they might have a gripe with him. I mean, look, the guy, anytime it's in primetime or anytime they have a huge night game or something, he always seems to choke. They never play the same way. And it also seems like he's very streaky. I guess you could say like or confidence bound. You know what I mean? Like, so if anything breaks his confidence, he just falls apart. And so he's really he holds on to that. The confidence part of it seems to be a big part of his game. And look, when it comes to pressure, it never seems like he's able to break through. Obviously, yes, he beat the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. But that aside, that seems to be the streak going into there. And then you could put him against Andrew Luck, who's just having a effing phenomenal season. Andrew Luck has looked amazing. And quite frankly, a great person to step in for Peyton Manning for the Colts. How lucky are the Colts? How lucky are the Colts? The 1 year that Peyton Manning happens to have to miss an entire season and they happen to suck is the 1 year that you get a guy like Andrew Luck in the draft. Hugely lucky, man. I envy. I wish the Jets had that kind of luck. But, yeah, out of the 3-4 matchups, the Bengals at Colts is probably the most interesting to me, solely because I want to see how the Bengals play. I want to see how the Bengals are going to be. Are they going to show up there like they have in the past and lose in the first round like Marvin Lewis has a reputation of doing? Or is this the year that because look, let's not forget, they went 0-4 at the beginning of the season. You know, they looked stout at the first 4 weeks of the season. I thought that they were the best team in football. I really did. And so they have the potential there, and they have the ability to work there. But I want to see who ends up showing to the game. Is it going to be the same old Bengals or Bungles? I think is what the fan base has them pegged as, or is it going to be is it finally going to be the time where they can step up and be something special? And then of course the fourth matchup, the Lions at Cowboys. Now I like this matchup personally because I want to see the Lions. I want to see the Lions win. I really do. I'm not a fan of Lions, but I've always rooted for them when I could. You know, obviously I'm a Jets fan. I kind of been a Rams fan too because that's where my dad is. But and so I grew up around the Rams. But when it comes to other teams, I've always rooted for the Lions when I could. I want to see them succeed finally after being so bad for so long and all the hardships that fan base in particular has had to deal with. I want to see them succeed. They've been to the playoffs a couple years ago, lost in the first round. Maybe they get up enough steam here to propel themselves into a deeper playoff run. However, in order to do that, of course, you got to face the Cowboys in the first round in Dallas. A couple of things I need to note here. The Lions, obviously, the Lions are 11-5. Cowboys are 12-4. That's going to be at 4:40 on Sunday on Fox. A couple of things I want to mention. Ndamukong Suh was initially suspended for one game. This was earlier this week. He was suspended for one game for stomping on the leg of Aaron Rodgers. He did win his appeal, so they do have Suh, which is a great anchor to their defense, their defensive line. Now, with Suh being there, you also got to look at Stafford, who really has, just like Andy Dalton, folding under pressure. Stafford doesn't seem to play as well on the road. I mean, when I say that, I know everybody. Look, not every player, everybody likes playing at home than on the road. But I'm saying it seems to be a little bit more apparent with Stafford. He does not play very good on the road, and especially when you got to go on the road to face a very hot Dallas team. That can cause a lot of problems. So it's going to be fun watching that number one rush defense go against the number two rushing offense with DeMarco Murray. But going back, recapping those four, I said I got the Panthers going over the Cardinals. I got the Steelers getting a win over the Ravens. I do have the Colts. I did forget to mention this. I'm picking the Colts to win against the Bengals, and I'm picking the Cowboys to win against the Lions. I think it's going to be that straightforward. All four home teams, all four wins. And that's just what I think is going to happen. I really think I would wish the Lions would be a little better, but they kind of finished their season on a low note, while the Cowboys finished their season on a very high note. They just destroyed it the last couple of weeks. But hopefully they can turn it around. And but I got the Cowboys, man. I think that's who's going to win. I want to see the Lions win, but my gut tells me it's going to be a Cowboys game all the way. All right, everybody, it's that time again. It's RJ's Top 5. Every week, every episode, I'm going to pick one topic to talk about my top 5 of that topic. It could be anything from anything stemming from top 5 favorite movies, top 5, not specifically sports related, but anything, top 5 anything. This week happens to be sports related. It's my top 5 NFL team nicknames, and this is not just current, this is in history. My top 5 favorite nicknames of NFL teams. Number 5 is going to go to Big Blue Wrecking Crew. It's the Giants' nickname in the 1980s. It was headed by Lawrence Taylor. And look, when it comes to the supporting cast, you don't need to worry about supporting cast. When you have Lawrence Taylor heading your team, there's Lawrence Taylor all the way. Number 4 is Legion of Boom. That's the Seahawks' current secondary. I hated this name when it first came out. When people started using it more, I could not stand it. I thought it was just... I just thought it was just for something about it just rubbed me the wrong way, specifically because I can't stand Richard Sherman, that loudmouth son of a bitch. But the name Legion of Boom, it grows on you. I've found that it grows on me. It is headed by quarterback Richard Sherman and safeties Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas. Number 3, the New York Sack Exchange. Yes, I had to do it. It's my favorite team, and of course I'm going to pick the New York Sack Exchange. Maybe I'm biased, but I don't care. This was the name of the Jets' defensive line in the 1980s. It was headed by defensive end Mark Gastineau and defensive tackles Marty Lyons and Abdul Salam. And of course, we cannot forget the often underrated, versatile defensive lineman Joe Klecko. Number 2, the greatest show on turf. This was the name of the St. Louis Rams offense from the late 90s to early 2000s. It was, of course, starred quarterback Kurt Warner, running back Marshall Faulk, wide receivers Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, and of course the offensive line was anchored by Orlando Pace, one of the best tackles in the history of football here. And of course, we're going to go for honorable mentions. Fearsome Foursome, the Rams, the Dirty Birds for the Falcons, the Steel Curtain for the Steelers, and my guilty pleasure one to tag in here, the Evil Empire, the Patriots. Number 1 on RJ's top 5 team nicknames in NFL history, the Purple People Eaters. Yes, that's right. This was the name of the Minnesota Vikings defensive line. It was headed by Hall of Famers defensive tackle Alan Page and defensive end Carl Eller, and it also involved Jim Marshall and defensive tackle Gary Larson. That was my top 5, ladies and gentlemen. And that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Some quick notes I want to get past to you guys. First of all, just let us know how you feel. Subscribe to the feed if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more. I'm going to do episodes every Monday. There might be some occasions like it was this week where it shows up on a Tuesday or Wednesday or something, but I'm aiming for every Monday to do the show. Let me know what you think. That's the most important part to me, is hearing from you guys, the viewers, the listeners. Let me know what you think. Comment on it. Send me an email if you want. You can find the email on the website, intothevoid.weebly.com, at the hit us up page. But yeah, just let me know what you think. What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you think I can do better as far as making this podcast a lot better? What can I do to make it better? Comment and discuss as well. I want you guys to make a discussion. I like hearing what you guys think about the topics that we discussed in the episode here today. What do you think? Do you think Rex Ryan would be a good fit for the Bears? Do you think I was wrong with my picks? That's what I like to hear. I like discussions and all that kind of stuff. Credits today. All music was courtesy of Kevin McLeod from Incompetech. That's INCOMPETECH.com. You can go find that link in the show notes where you went to download this episode. It's a lot of great free royalty-free music, and that's what I was looking for. Found a ton of it, some high-quality ones. I really enjoyed what I saw there. So check that out, Incompetech.com. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you next week, hopefully on Monday. That's what I'm aiming for. So long, everybody.